redid the back. I like it.
Yeah, you like that background there, Sam? Got a new background for today. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It's a new background. It's a new episode. And today we're joined by musical artist Wes Cage. How the hell are you doing today, man?
Magnificent. Thanks. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. Our pleasure, man. So right now you got a single out, The Wolf. Right?
Yes.
How did this, so you've been doing music for a little while now. This is a single. Is there a new album to follow, or what do you got going on here, man?
There's definitely a universe of unreleased Wes Cage content. A lot of tracks. This is one of those that made it to the light of day. I'm very excited about it because I think it's something that can really empower people, especially lyrically. And I wrote this with Keith Wallen from Breaking Benjamin, and my manager Blasko had me go on like a huge writing session quest, pretty much, and this was the one that really stood out.
So you said who from Keith Wallen from Breaking Bad, Benjamin?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we did a tour with them several years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're a great band, and then mutual friends with Blasko. He's been here on the show before as well, so keeping it all in house here.
Does Blasko knows everybody, right? Blasko, I feel like he's tied to everyone. When I heard that you and Blasko were hooked up, and I was like, of course, Blasko knows everybody. I feel like
he does. He's one of the gods for sure.
Yeah.
How'd you come to cross paths with Blasko?
I grew up with Rob Zombie being around quite a bit, and my dad and him were very close. And when I was little, I was in a metal too, and this kind of music as a kid. So to me, he was like my, like an uncle in a way to me, like that uncle I didn't have, And one day I texted him who the best manager he knew of is, and he gave me Blasko's contact and set up a Zoom and had perfect chemistry and started working together.
How long ago was that? How long ago was it that you guys started working together?
About the end of 2020, we started to work together, but things really started moving a couple years later because I had a huge adjustment to make in my life, and also we needed to write the track and get the video going. I got signed to Pavement, so there's some steps first.
Right on.
What's the process? Are you got the single? Do you got a whole album? I know you say that the universe is coming, which we'll dive into. But we were talking to the previous artists about how releasing things are so different. Do you guys have that discussion as far as track by track, or it's just such a different world today? And what is
it's
your
such a different world,
right?
I miss releasing albums because I think there's an art form also to the order of which track comes first and second and what's the last one. There's so much to an album, and the first record I did under the moniker Wes Cage is called Prehistoric Technology. It's a bit on the heavy side, also has some elements of like kind of a new metal sound, but then this has been the next stage. And then of course I have some other tracks that I did, a completely unreleased record where I played every instrument on it, which, I despise recording drums myself, but I did it. And I felt like I brought this, I was like a vessel and something greater was coming through me. And I think that we have a track from that record that I think it might be getting released because, and it's a great sound. I use 8-string guitars, 6-string basses, and it's just a very heavy record. So there's a lot more stuff to release. And I think that we do have like 6 or 7 tracks that we could put in some kind of a smaller album or something.
When you say a 6-string bass there, is it a standard tuning B to B on it?
We were using the top string at F, and then
at fucking F?
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. It was very heavy.
Yeah, man, it's getting low on it, man. So That's cool, and that's unreleased shit, right?
Yes, it's unreleased. There's I did the album with Ryan Green, and I'm very glad that we met because he he's done some pretty innovative stuff with, you know, Megadeth and Green Day, and he's worked with so many different. There's a lot of diversity. He also worked with a cool metal band called Benedictum, which I listened to a little bit, but there was something really special on that album. It's almost like there's something sacred about it, because I was doing constant meditation and trying to raise my vibration to receive something, and I feel like what we caught was pretty unparalleled to what I've done before.
All right, so now this is like now the second time you talked about a little bit of getting being a vessel rather for
Yes.
the music to flow through you through meditation. You also mentioned you were going through some shit at the top of this thing. So what are you talking about? Like, what? Walk me through here. What your meditation is? When it started? Why you started it? Why you felt that you needed to be this vessel and get to this wavelength?
Well, when I was little, I used to say things that were, I guess, spiritually advanced, and it really interested my father and my mother. You know, I had some people try to figure out kind of like what I was about as a kid. I don't know, like my first word was light, and then I started talking about like chakras and auras and stuff as a kid. So I've always been really connected to my spirituality. And I know that I know another guy who was like referred to as like kind of like an indigo child. I don't think I'm an indigo child, but he went to a school just for spiritually advanced people. I didn't get that kind of upbringing, and I went into martial arts and stuff like that, and I was always creating, but I kind of left that spirituality and returned to it at 15, and started working with shamans, and started going on these journeys to try and enhance my art. So like right now, I you know, sometimes I fast, sometimes I'm doing meditations. I'm currently almost on day 5 of no food because I'm trying to elevate my vibration and kind of switch things up a bit. But yeah, so I've been through quite a bit of changes, and then of course I got into manifestation and stuff like that really young, and started playing with what I could do with the quantum web, as we all can do it. But then of course I sometimes found my way into the wrong things, and I had to really it took me a lot to get to where I am today, because like I've always wanted true love. I always knew I was supposed to be with my soulmate and to be a devoted husband, and I finally met my true love, which took me ages. So awesome. All these things had to happen first.
Well, I mean, let's go into this a little further. I'm very interested in this stuff. I've definitely I've been on the outskirts of some meditation and some journeys. Mine have been enhanced with the use of psilocybin out in the forest and stuff like that. Have you fucked with that? Have you messed with any of the hallucinogens in order to get to a different spot?
I have used. I worked with a guy. He's in Santa Monica, who can kind of cause the ayahuasca experience and hallucinations through breath work, which was interesting. So I've been there. I've also used other plant medicines before. There was a period where I was using marijuana the way it was intended to be used for that kind of a, you know, advancing and spiritual in ways. But I have yet to take the psilocybin and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, also, as you're telling your story there, you said your first word was light. You're using words like chakra. Was this something that was prevalent in your household? Like, I mean, you can imagine maybe a child would pick up words that they're hearing from their parents. You know, obviously that's something that goes on. So I'm just curious, is that possible, or was it like kind of out of nowhere that you were just using this language?
Well, it definitely kind of came out of nowhere, especially with, you know, where I would go with these topics and stuff as a kid, and talking about, you know, the eternal and energy and stuff like that. My mother and my father have always been very spiritual. There's always been a, you know, kind of a spiritual music like Enya, stuff like that. Like that was my first love musically, was Enya, that kind of like world new age type of a thing. Which is why I love that other album so much, because it's like metal goes new age, which was my goal. But
nice.
Yeah, there was also some influence for sure. Buddhism, my mom was always into.
Yeah. Where'd you grow up?
Predominantly in Los Angeles, and then I was in the Los Feliz area, but there was a constant travel, very itinerant. So I was a kid going to England all the time and
traveling. Did you do homeschool, or were you at school or travel around with your different places? What was that like?
I managed to make it through school, regular school, but there were periods of time where, like, if we had to go to Greece as a family or something like that, like I took off a little bit and would get handed homework to do.
Okay. So there was obviously you've talked about your father and your family a little bit. Your father, Nicolas Cage, famous for his acting and everything like that. And there was in Newport. There was always every once in a while I play over at the Pelican Club, play a little golf over there. And the rumor was one of those houses was your guys's a while back. Did you grow up in that house as well, or was that something that was after you'd grown up a little bit?
I spent my mid-teenage years there until we let it go. But I loved that area, and that house was amazing. And also being able to catch, like white sea bass from the dock, like 20 feet away from the house was pretty, otherworldly. I loved that. That was... usually we're getting mackerels and stuff. It was like we're putting this amazing fertile area. I love that region.
Yeah, that area is awesome. I mean, it's on that little point. Isn't John Wayne's house next to it or something? Or
John Wayne's house was down in the harbor. John Wayne's house was down in the harbor. This is up on the cliffs where Pelican Country Club is, and definitely, like I said, Did you grow up playing a little golf there then?
No. The only kind of golf I ever did was like mini golf.
That's fair.
It's less frustrating, I'll tell you that.
I don't know, man. I get
pretty, well, if you go with Johnny, he just has the good time. So
yeah, that's true. I just have a good time out there anyway, man. Whereabouts are you right now?
I'm in Nevada right now, so I go back and forth with my fiance. Her name is Ermelinda. She's a incredible fashion designer, also a writer, producer, and artist. So we met on production in Nevada. And then, instead of being like, you come to LA or I come to Nevada, I was like, why don't we make Nevada and California like one state to us, pretty much, and just go back and forth all the time. And she loves it. And we've definitely been going back and forth.
Is that who was with when I did show a backstory for the listeners? Yeah. I actually ran into Wes. We were at Almost Acoustic Christmas. And it's interesting just how I recognize you. I think 2 months before whenever your single had come out, it was on live. What was it? Loudwire or We Are the Pit or something like that had said it, and it just had a picture of your face, and you're very like family. The eyes are very similar. So walking by, I was like,
no mistaking. He's a Coppola Cage.
You're a Coppola, yeah. It was just strange, and you're very tall. How tall are you?
6'3", but when I'm wearing boots, like 6'4" for sure.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, that guy is massive. And then, but then I went back and I asked you, and then you said, yeah, and I'm glad that we met and you're able to come on the podcast. But was that your wife with you right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, fiance, Sam.
Fiance, I'm sorry.
Listen to what the man's saying. Don't come on here and co-host like that, man.
Yeah, it'll get there soon enough.
I feel like we were born married to each other. It's just amazing how I got to see what I was doing wrong before, where my patterns had led me, and then instead of trying to I don't feel like I could imagine the kind of greatness that she is. So I started asking the universe to just send me where I'm supposed to be, and then every August we have that awesome opportunity to work with the Cosmos, the Lionsgate effect, where the universe is very ripe and sensitive and picks up on everything you're asking for. And I was visiting her around August, and I asked the universe, and I was like, I know she's the one. You've shown me that. Please make something happen between us. And 2 days later, we were official.
Oh, nice.
So it was, yeah.
Well, so you said you met her on production. What was the production of?
That was Mojave Diamonds, which was done with Chael Sonnen and Rampage Jackson, Cowboy Cerrone. I played a psychotic and violent, drug-addicted, mentally ill, like Italian tycoon and like mafia don that had more of a militia than a mafia. He had like tanks and stuff. Very crazy character. That character is the reason why I'll never do method acting again, because it started getting a little
took you deep,
intense. Huh? Yeah, but I met her, Melinda, there. She was doing the costumes, and yeah, it was just outstanding. You know,
was she like, oh, what an asshole? And then she's heard the real you, not in method actor, and was like, oh, what a relief. Is that
no, it was the other way around. She fell in love with the method actor, and then when he went straight, she was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was interesting. We definitely saw each other instantly recognized our spirits. But yeah, that was a wild film. I mean, I gained a tremendous amount of weight for that character too, to kind of look like he was gluttonous. And I mean, it was a complete body shift, and you know, it was wild.
Well, we'll get back to a little bit of this spiritualism, because I definitely want to dive into that with you. You seem to be very knowledgeable, obviously, and very into it, and it's something that I'm very interested in. So I want to get back to that, but before we do, I want to ask a little bit more about, you know, the other side of your life, the side you put out there, right? In acting and music, which one came first for you? You know, obviously you came from a long lineage of acting in your family and artistry, dating back to your grandparents and stuff, and so forth. So for me, I guess which one were you more passionate about first, or were they kind of just intertwined from the beginning?
They were definitely intertwined, and it was kind of interesting how that unfolded simultaneously. There was always like a piano, drum set, and a guitar in the house, and then, of course, with video cameras being there. I mean, my fiance and I were just talking to a friend about it because my mom showed my fiance all these, you know, thousands of cassettes and tapes of the home movies I made. Whenever friends would come over, I would bring out stage blood and fake weapons and just make movies with them all day and have people videotape. And I was directing and making, and the movies were actually, they had like a plot to it. But
at what age was this at? I'm sorry.
Ooh, like 5 all the way to like 11.
At 5 you were doing this?
At 5.
Dude, that's sick. I mean, you hear a lot from other actors and stuff. The camera's usually around. They're doing a lot of their own filming with the home cameras and everything growing up, you know. But I don't recall any of them saying it was like 5. Like that's pretty early, man.
I think it's because my parents put me in. So there's like a trinity of things I was into. It was always acting, music, and martial arts. And then my parents had me in martial arts at 3. So on my 33rd birthday, I just celebrated the 30th anniversary of me doing this. But you know, they had me in like youth academy and dramatic arts, all these things. My parents really invested in making sure that I, you know, had the ability to do the things I wanted to do, like with music and acting. So when I turned like 5, I really started to make these cool, like the ones at that age didn't make much sense, but I was making funny videos or you know, just loved being recorded. Then by the time I was like 7 years old and putting little plots and even like making movies and then like fake talk show interviews after the movie, like it was wild.
That's got to be so odd. Do you guys ever sit back and rewatch any of that stuff, or when's the last time you looked at some of that stuff?
We just recently rewatched some of it, and it was pretty cool. I mean, there was like a diverse scope of things I would do. Sometimes it was like a nature show where, like, you know, I was like a kind of like a adventurer type. It was wild. But yeah, we were watching all kinds of stuff. We watched a documentary that hasn't been released that my mother made of when like martial arts and wrestling, that when I thought that was going to be my professional career and everything. And so we watched that documentary recently, and it was wild to see myself at that age. But you know.
And what age was that when you thought you were going to do that was going to be your profession, was martial arts and wrestling?
Well, when I hit about 17, 16, I thought I was going to be, and then also even in my late 20s, I've competed. I fought at with Mr. Olympia, did something at the convention center in Vegas, and then they put a couple rings in there. The martial art I do is Sambo, so most Russian style grappling and striking stuff. So we did full contact MMA matches there. as well. And
What's
I
that called
managed
again?
to
Samba?
Sambo, yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one. That's interesting. And you said it's predominantly for Russian martial art?
It is, yeah. And it's like jujitsu and judo, but they've made it some variations to it. But I managed to win in 2018 gold medal. I placed heavyweight champion and then did pretty well in some other weight classes too.
How does that feel with your training as far as, I know you've been in tune spiritually and things like that of preparing for a fight, but then also having the release of the fight itself. Was that ever a conflict for you, or was it all about just the discipline and the understanding that everybody does it? Or I just am curious how those two wind together for you as you were growing up.
For me, when it comes to like true martial arts, the discipline itself and the love of the strategy and sport kind of connected with me, and worked in accordance with my spirituality. There was a wrestling match where I wrestled the guy and I did a toss on him and his hip. I pretty much broke the guy's hip area, and there was the dislocation. And I remember I got really sick looking at the way he was like screaming. It was a horrible experience. So that would conflict with me, and I felt very bad. And but then I turned when I was like 20 years old. There's an old video on TMZ that's like kind of a lot of people believe that I was fighting some personal trainer or something, which is completely false. But I got it kicked in the groin area by a personal manager when I was intoxicated. And to me, you're just not allowed to kick people between the legs, even on the street. So when that happened to me, I kind of ditched martial arts and went straight for the military style stuff, or like Krav Maga, or what the most unfair, ballistic, and intellectual, like martial sciences. So I've spent like 10 years doing that. And then my friend, I have a friend who's into Tai Chi and more of the spiritual stuff, which is nice because I'm kind of going back to that, because it's been like 10 years of nonstop, all the most unfair, illegal moves and stuff, because I never want to let that happen to me again. It was amazing. I got kicked between the legs and 2 black belts meant nothing. I fell to the ground and yep.
Wow. So wait, so how does the more Tai Chi help if you get kicked in the nuts again? How does this now help?
Well, the Tai Chi is good because it's going to bring me back to a more of a spirituality and more of a discipline again, the spirituality of martial arts, whereas the stuff I've been doing has just been, it's literally battlefield stuff. And there's no soul to it,
Mm-hmm.
Very, very calculated and disturbing.
And you said you have 2 black belts at that time, and what they were in. The Samba, I imagine, and what else?
Is it the same discipline or different?
I pretty much did Taekwondo and Hapkido together. I like Hapkido more, but I did those together as a kid. And then I left the whole like belt sport or disciplines and went on to boxing and wrestling, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu with Royce Gracie. Didn't get a belt in that, but then I came to Sambo, and there's no belt system in Samba, though. There's only, you basically they have red corner and blue corner. So if you're wearing the red kurtka, you put on a red belt, and then with the blue, vice versa. But a lot of guys that do Sambo that have a black belt in something else, like I know a guy who's got a black belt in Aikido, he just wears his black belt over the Sambo gi.
Gotcha. Man, that's insane, man. That's a different discipline, man. I got a son now. He's about to turn 7, and I'm like just now starting to think like he likes to wrestle. He likes professional wrestling. We're a big professional wrestling family, and we just find it fun, right? And now I'm kind of like, you like wrestling around? Maybe get you some jiu-jitsu. Learn something that has a little bit more to it,
Jiu-jitsu and judo, I think, is the best choice for a young man or woman. To get your child in that is. It gives just lifelong attributes. Taekwondo can make them flexible and stuff, but jiu-jitsu and judo just gives them the strategy, the understanding of physics, and it's amazing.
I put my daughter, she did a couple years in Krav Maga, and just as
Oh,
a dad to see the confidence in her, like it's a scary world out there, and the fact that she has confidence and in herself and the restraint. I like the way they did things. Of like, yeah, I mean, it might be a little more, as you said, a little more aggressive, but in the situation of just trying to get out of something for a female, I thought it was awesome, and she was just so proud. And as a dad, I mean, you got a tight family, and it's just seeing that with your kids of their confidence and stuff is awesome. So I'm a big believer in those discipline sports.
Me too. And Krav Maga is absolutely exceptional. It's very honest, and it's even if we know that we're more well trained than someone, and the person we might be stronger than them, faster. Nowadays, I think it's just best to go straight for the sensitive regions, like Krav Maga teaches, the eyes, the groin, because there might have a friend behind you, and it's like to get it over with.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Do you watch UFC or anything, or what are you into that? What are you into?
I love watching UFC. Of course, I have a lot of usually the Russian fighters and guys who do the same martial art as I do, like Khabib Nurmagomedov, and back when Fedor was fighting, and those
Fedor,
guys.
Man, I used to love watching Fedor, man.
Yeah, he's the best. I mean, and he has that his Sambo throws were just unbelievable.
Okay, so for me as a layman, I never heard Sambo before you just came on here, but I am familiar with Fedor's. That's the style he was doing. I was just because they just called him like the Russian bear, or not Russian, but like he came out like with the checkered shorts and everything, and just dominated for so long. And I remember watching all the clips on YouTube, and then when it finally started getting to the closer to the UFC, there was more of the pay-per-views that I could get over here, But before that, I don't know if you remember, for a while, all the stuff you saw from Fedor was like on YouTube and shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Those were the days when he he was unbelievable. I mean, but he and like Sergey Kharitonov, Nurmagomedov, all those guys have a Sambo background, or have done enough of it to where that kind of is their base. The cool thing about Sambo is that it's like jiu-jitsu, but there's 1,000 variations to each move, and also Sambo's it's kind of unknown for what it is. So the scary thing is that when you're fighting a Sambo practitioner, they're so unpredictable. We don't know if they're going to do a double armbar and grab a leg in there, or go for a weird kind of like Kimura variation with the leg involved. It's very, very bizarre, and that's why I would always get very nervous when I would compete in Sambo, because someone might be doing a variation that I don't know of. It's like a chess game with 1,000 more moves.
Damn.
You've done a few movies. I saw like Chuck Liddell. You've been in a couple, and Randy Couture. Is that by chance that you got in those with them, with the the UFC, and your interest in that, or was that just normal going out for movies, and that's the ones that landed?
I think there may have been some kind of like vibrational, like magnetic reason why that all happened, because I've been around those guys since I was a kid. Like Frank Trigg was my wrestling coach. We just talked recently, and Hoist Gracie. So I was kind of always around that, and then the universe kept providing roles with UFC and Pride FC or Bellator, legends.
You got some movies. It looks like you got a lot in the can or coming up here. Some cool ones with like Mel. You got Mel Gibson. You did a movie with. That's pretty. What was? I mean, I don't know if you can talk about any of those that are coming up. But and then you also got.
It's on IMDb. You can at least talk a little bit about it.
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
Of course. Yeah, that's a real. So my fiance and I worked on that together.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. We manifested that dream of still working together like that. We also finished 2 scripts together, but that movie is called Boneyard, and it's a true story about a really, really horrific thing that was happening in New Mexico. There were 2 men that deserve no recognition, but these 2 guys, we kind of made one character out of what these 2 guys did. But women were being killed left and right and going missing, and people. One day, a woman was walking her dog, and the dog found, I believe, a femur bone, and it was, human. And then they started digging around the area and found just a complete yard of dead people, and it was because of these two serial killers. So I played the serial killer in this, and Mel Gibson is the officer. Mel Gibson and 50 Cent both play law enforcement. That's against my character.
Oh, 50 Cent's in the two?
Yeah.
One
of the hardest characters I ever played, because he's scary, but he's also extremely scared. So he's like a very high anxiety, fragile guy, but at a split second he can wind up choking somebody, out of some weird rage. And he has a psychosis going on, but the feature of the psychosis is he's very highly a religious extremism. He thinks killing prostitutes is the will of God.
Wow. And you said it's based on a true story. How did you find your research to find this role?
I started looking at both articles and then whatever documentary I could find on these murders that were happening in New Mexico. The guys still are not convicted. It's weird. It's the two guys, one of them died because he got shot by a pimp, and then the other guy got incarcerated and the murders stopped. So it's a clearly pointing at them, but the police still can't convict them. So it's still an open mystery.
Wow. Do you guys cover that part in the movie at all? Just the legality of it? Because obviously, like you said, if it smells like whatever, the proverbial, pick one of those, it must be a duck, but in the legal system, as we know, you have to have all this evidence, all this proof, and however they're getting around it, obviously they've found some sort of loophole that hasn't been closed yet, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we did a best of both worlds kind of mixture of how that event ended, still to where it was based on the true events, but we changed it up a little bit in the film.
Cool. And how was it? I mean, how was it like working with 50 and Mel Gibson on that?
Oh, it was magnificent. Both very gentlemanly and incredible artists. Also, it's definitely, it was interesting to enter that kind of psychology, and these scenes were just, I really feel like I became the character. Mel became the character. 50, everybody, and Asif Akbar. He's an incredible director, and he's so young to be doing what he's doing. It's excellent.
Let's get back into a little bit of, I don't know, talking about your acting coming up and your family life, how it was growing up in that environment. I mean, you said you just now worked with Mel. Mel's been in the industry for a long time, as much as your father has. Is this the first time you've crossed paths with Mel? Is doing this movie together, or was that something your dad might have been friends with and you saw him around? I mean, you mentioned you considered Rob kind of an uncle, Rob Zombie there. Was this someone that was in the circle around the family?
This was the first time I crossed paths with Mel Gibson, and also with 50 Cent. I knew that my dad had worked with 50 Cent on another movie that was similar to this, the Frozen Ground movie.
Yeah.
That they did in Alaska. So I heard of him and how he was, but I didn't get to shake his hand yet. So this was the first time for both.
And then going back to the music, and you said rock and roll, I mean, kind of seems famously around your family in a way. I mean, your dad's been friends with guys in Motley Crue, and there's all the the TMZ reports and partying and everything like that, whatever the hell that means. But just hanging out with other rockers, and you mentioned Rob Zombie being around, who's also similar to you, blends that world of music and movie, obviously, famously more in the horror genre. What were some of the people that you grew up around that you still revere today and get to work with, maybe?
Well, of course, Rob, Ozzy, and who else? Let's see. There's actor wise, Carrie Elways and Crispin Glover, two extraordinary beings that were around.
Crispin Glover, I'm a big fan of some of his roles, man. Willard had me fucking fucked up after watching that movie, man. That was.
Oh yeah.
I have a phobia of fucking rats and little shit like that. Anyway,
Oh.
So Willard got me.
Yeah, that'll do it. That movie is saturated with rats. Yeah, he's interesting. You know, I've always loved Crispin Glover, and he's just a very unique caliber. It's his own caliber of artist, and his uniqueness and kind of abstract and intellectual background that he comes from with his choices. It's pretty fascinating. He's also a great martial artist.
Oh, really?
Really?
Well, you also says choices. I do admire people who stick to their guns and put up the art out that they want, right? So I feel like he's definitely one of those guys, and obviously yourself, and it seems like your family follow that same suit.
Thank you. Definitely. Yeah, he's got great character choices. And Charlie's Angels, the way he was like smelling the hair. That was wild.
Dude, that's such a good point. Like that's one thing I gravitate towards actors. I'm not a thespian. I've never studied or anything like that. Obviously, I'm just like a lot of people, just a fan of shit. But I'm such a fan of shit that like I catch shit like what you just described with Crispin Glover. I mean, you mentioned Charlie's Angels, somewhat of a more comedic role but he plays it his style, which is so.
But he's straight the whole time.
Yeah, and you go back. I mean, go back to how he played Marty McFly's dad in the Back to the Future trilogy. Like that, it's comical, but it's like it's still Crispin. You know, it's so cool, man.
It's brilliant, honestly, brilliant.
Dude,
what are some of the concerts that your first concerts and stuff that you went to music that got you? What was your first concert? How about that?
First concert was Gypsy Kings, and I had a great seat in the audience. My mom's side is Norwegian, and I had a 7-foot Viking uncle that I was on his shoulders, like watching from really high up the Gypsy Kings play, and I had the most hypnotic experience. It was wild. And then after that, I got into the modalities that are, used in Spanish music, and then it's kind of Arabian origins that it kind of, got mixed with and stuff. So that was huge. And then also, any one of the metal concerts, of course, System of a Down had an enormous effect on me. And I wound up it was System of a Down that got me to want to really start with the band as opposed to just expressing myself and learning about instruments. I really started to record. And then, of course, my well-known black metal chapter, that was intense. I mean, that's the only time I really ever.
Wait a minute. I'm gonna have to cut you off there, Wes, real quick. You said well-known black metal thing, and I have to apologize. I don't know what you mean by your black metal era. Can you fill me in a little bit on that?
Yeah. So I started a project called Eyes of Noctum, and we had become there was a time when it was us and I guess a band called Sophis, where that was kind of I would say that the most celebrated of, I guess, California at least. But we recorded with Fredrik Nordstrom in Sweden and I wound up having Hellhammer from Mayhem drum on the record, and started becoming friends with all those guys from the black metal world, from Dark Throne and Mayhem, Demu, all these guys. So it added a lot of depth to me creatively. Also, my ability to play an antagonist that was enhanced from that. But I stopped doing black.
Yeah, you brought that into your acting as well, is what you're saying there.
Totally. Yeah, if I play some certain characters, I can really go to quite the magnitude of darkness from the black metal roots I have. But it also made me a certain kind of musician, I think, too. It gave me a lot of discipline, and it was awesome spending time in Norway. My birthday party, my 18th birthday party, lasted 3 days, and it's a huge. People still talk about it in Oslo. It was so debauched and filled with decadence.
Oh, please share some
You're
details.
You're talking to the king of debauchery right here. He's like, please tell me.
I want the debauchery. I mean, I want to know. Everyone's had an 18th birthday, but no one has a 3-day 18th birthday in Oslo, man. You got to give me something there. What do you mean? What was this celebration, my man?
It was just epic. I mean, I walked into this cabin and the party was planned for me, and pretty much every black metal legend was there. Most of them, some couldn't make it, but I mean, we had Hellhammer and Necro Butcher. We had guys from Timu there. I mean, everybody, and it was just a non-stop festive Viking themed party, and we were partying, 72 hours minimum.
This was with no sleep?
No sleep.
Okay.
It got out of control. One guy had like I think he's okay, thank God, but he had like a triple bypass.
Think he's okay?
I think he's all right. I don't know. We left him on the couch that day.
Yeah, it was definitely hedonistic as it gets, and there were some cool moments. When I was doing I did a toast where I was, trying to say empowering words to everyone about how honored I was to share that moment with them. But some people were just, their bodies gave out from how hard the partying was. It's another level of partying I've noticed in the black metal. It's almost like a destructive almost, but.
And so what, I mean, if you don't mind indulging on a little bit more details to these questions I have, if you don't want to, totally fine. But my question is, I mean, two things here. Oslo, are we talking, when's your birthday? What's your birthday month there?
December 26th.
Okay, so we're talking when it's dark all the time. When you get like an hour of sunlight at most, right? Something like that.
Oh, totally. I mean,
I remember, it's got to be.
I remember coming outside from the cabin to smoke, and it was just always dark, and there was just, it was like something out of the Tim Burton movie. It was all snow and these kind of like dark trees and freaking wolves. It was outstanding.
Okay, so 72 hours. I gotta imagine there was snow outside and inside that cabin, correct?
There was only
no.
It was 2 stories. Yeah.
Did that take you that long to get that one, Sam?
It did. I was like, what?
Oh, Jesus
From your
Christ,
boots?
Man.
No, I got it. I got it now. Different snow.
No, but I mean, at 72 hours in the dark, I mean, that is a different level. I mean, in a cabin, just going for it. Like, man, 18 years old. That must have been a fucking great time.
So great. And 18 in Norway, that's a full blown adult to where you can have alcohol, and so it was amazing. I loved rubbing it in when I'd come back to the US with my teachers that follow Uncle Sam, and being 21 to drink, I'd always rub it in that I would go to a country where it was legal to drink at 18 and drive the teachers nuts.
That's fantastic, man. Again, so going back a little bit even further, you're growing up. When did you realize, I mean, was it kind of right, like just kind of intertwined? I would imagine, but is there ever a moment in your young childhood where you realized you were part of this, famous family, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, I absolutely knew. And I felt a huge sense of calling and purpose, and that I had to take it up a notch, that I had to do something that could, it would be forever remembered in the arts, but whatever I could do to try to really I wanted to elevate the consciousness of the whole world and do something that could really just forever benefit humanity and the earth. But I have always had this huge sense of a duty in a way. And, of course, my father and Francis and many other all these relatives I had there, just each and every one of them is amazing for their own reasons. And, I've always felt that I needed to get my seat in that, kind of pantheon.
And is there any pressure involved in that? Do you ever feel overwhelmed with that at any point? Or is it more, I mean, as we've talked a bit about spiritualization and the universe and stuff, did you just kind of feel like it was your calling and there's not really a lot of pressure? It's just, this is what this is what I feel I need to do, and damn any even internal pressure? Or do you have moments where you're like a little overwhelmed that like I need to do this for the family or for other people, whatever it might be, whatever the muse is, but does it ever feel overwhelming to put yourself in, I want to be a beacon for the universe?
It's definitely overwhelming, and there's a lot of pressure, for sure. It's turned me into I have very colossal expectations of myself, and it's something that drives me, and it's created an intensity. I know certain people that are from not necessarily a families of where everyone's an artist, but I know people who are related to other, well-known artists or actors, musicians, and some of these people have the kind of mentality where they're like, I'll never, be able to hold a flame to what they've done, or I can't ascend to that level, or they've got that register covered. For me, it's like I have to hold the torch as well, and then kind of take it to somewhere else, do something extraordinary, but then hope that the youth will surpass that too, and keep the kind of tradition going. I hope the tradition can keep going, because this digital era with the youth, though, with the iPads and stuff, it's freaking me out, because I know all these kids that don't like use their imagination anymore. But I think that something great could still happen. But yeah, I mean, I have this kind of like insatiable appetite to just be prolific and create nonstop.
Yeah, I was just curious, because I mean, a lot of people have that anyway, right? Especially people who go into the entertainment industry, whether they've come from a family that had it in them or not. You kind of put that pressure on yourself anyway. I know I do. I didn't come from a family that had very many musicians, even, let alone anybody who did anything on a professional level. And I know for me, it's an internal pressure that I give myself, that I need to, that I want to be better at what I'm doing, right?
Yeah. Does it make it harder or help, or a little bit of both, coming from that to do the things you want to do?
It's made it, I would say, harder for me, in my experience. My dad told me when I was a kid, he prepared me, though. He's like, you're going to have to work twice as hard as normal to prove that you aren't a guy that's just relying on that element that we have. And it's kind of amazing how similar, I know a lot of fathers and sons, or father-daughters, we're similar to our parents in some ways, but it's scary how similar my dad and I are with how he was shown kind of like a jealousy, or certain people having a weird demeanor towards him because of the Coppola name, and then he had to change the name to show I'm not relying on nepotism. And then that transferred to me, and people are like, oh, nepotism medal or something like that. And then I would start laughing. It's like, no matter how much nepotism a family's relying on, there's no chip I can buy for $1 billion and put it in someone's head and give them the ability to play a bunch of instruments or something, or have talent. It will speak for itself. But there have been moments, I used to be a very angry guy because of there's been moments that were borderline abusive, especially in acting class, where, an acting coach would know that I came from the Coppola name and just take that as a moment to verbally just onslaught me with insults in front of everyone, so he could say with his friends while having wine that night, I told a Coppola a thing or two about what I felt. And it's just, so that definitely was bad. But the one thing that it has helped with is, at least, is like people know that they're going to get something different with my family. Usually, my relatives will always give something unique, and something that isn't like monotonous or generic.
Absolutely. I think that goes without saying for anyone who's paying attention. And you mentioned, first of all, that's really fucked up, obviously, stating the obvious, for someone to do that, especially, teachers of any kind, just teachers who haven't succeeded and are resentful for that. I don't be a teacher then. Like, be a teacher because you want to, as you said, maybe it's not just your relatives or your young relatives, but just for the next generation in general. Teach them something real. Don't be a fucking dick. Like maybe you didn't make it and it wasn't for you, but you have this other purpose now, going back to the universe. Now you have this other purpose, and do it right. You know what I mean? Don't fucking. Also, I thought Nepotism Metal would be a great album title for you if
that would be awesome.
There you go. It would be a great one. But well, and speaking on your father and something, you said he did warn you on that. Did he ever? I don't know. Did he ever deter you from getting away from entertainment, or was it just kind of so ingrained that he just knew? So it was just kind of like, let me warn you how it's going to be. Or did he ever try and say, this is how it's going to be? Maybe it's not for you. Does that make sense?
I think, it's because I literally can't do anything else with my life always having some kind of artistic thing around it, or some kind of expression, or I guess discipline. He never questioned me doing something else, but he would always check in with me whenever we had whenever I saw something, like an outlandish level of, him having to, photographs and us not being able to get out of a building, or having to run into a car to avoid paparazzi. He would check in with me and be like, are you sure you want this, to kind of make sure I knew. And then, he'd always let me know too, like, no matter, like, especially like with me, when I interact with people, I always remember that it's the fans that we're doing this for. And, it's for the world. So to never get, I know some people get really like horrible with their fans, and it always disturbs me, because it's like such a dishonor to be rude or insolent towards people who admire you. So I've never went there, but I know some celebrities definitely don't like pictures or signature, nothing. Mm-hmm. So it, we're always going to be nice, and sometimes it would take us like 2 hours to get out of a building. Or
was that hard as a kid though? Like, you don't. I mean, obviously, you can't have the normal experience with your father around, where you could just go to Disneyland freely and do the things. I mean, I guess you wouldn't know any otherwise, right? So, I mean, it's hard to say, hey, do you feel like you missed out or anything? Because I mean, you have so many other great opportunities, and it's all about the life you have. I mean, maybe I'm answering the question myself, but would you agree with that? Or
yeah, I think there's definitely some things I saw that other people had that I didn't, and then I saw the other way around. Yeah, I've always been, I think there was a really traumatizing moment I had when I was like maybe 4 or 5. I didn't know what was going on, but we were in France, and paparazzi were like literally just encircling the vehicle that we were in and chasing us, and I didn't know what the heck was going on, but stuff like that, that's all I knew.
Well, that's weird with the Princess Diana not too short after over there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember. I don't know exactly the timing, but I remember that's one of the reasons why everyone was really worried, because it was like similar to that.
Wow.
Yeah. Man, that's different upbringing right there, man. So did you ever? I mean, you said that you didn't know any other way, right? I mean, the art is running through you, creativity. But I know for me, even I consider myself to be pretty creative at times. Is there ever times though when you're just like, man, maybe this isn't for me? Second guessing yourself, right?
There have been times where I thought about it, especially with where I think art is going. I think there's some ways that things are getting to be modified and better, and I think there's also some things that are very detrimental and injurious for the arts, particularly those who are becoming famous for nothing, and talent not being important sometimes. That stuff is starting to annoy me in the industry. But there were times where I thought about, quitting, because, it's just, sometimes people would, especially when they would think that I was like this celebrity kid type mentality, where I've never been. My family just doesn't produce those. We produce other artists. And when I was being treated that way, I thought of leaving it behind, but there's really nothing else I can do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's just your calling.
There, you did do something else, and I have to transition here a little bit. The first time I heard your name was actually, I don't know if it's going to come up, Voodoo Child.
Yes.
So your father, obviously, it's been known about, his comic book collecting and things like that. And I'm a huge comic book fan. And so when I saw he did something with his son years ago, I thought that was really cool. And are you a big comic fan? Were you a comic fan? How did you guys write that together? Or do you ever want to write a comic book again? Or what's the deal with that one?
I would love to. We're both comic book fanatics. I even had a comic book um, illustration lessons from an amazing comic book artist that taught me how to like create characters and draw them enough to where you could, do something with it. And I remember my dad told me about this opportunity to work with Virgin Comics on something, and we both made this character. And I mean, it's still prevalent. I think I spent like 11 to 10 months of 2021 trying to make Voodoo Child into a film, a TV show, all these things.
That's awesome.
Right, man. And going back to real quick, going back to the music side, and again being around, Rob Zombie and everything. Have you worked with Rob Zombie now at this point?
I haven't worked with Rob. I would love to. It would be an honor to work with him. I ran things by him before, some cool horror opportunities that I wanted to get on. But yeah, I think that in the future that will probably happen, and I'd be honored.
Awesome, man. And again, a big theme here on this episode that I wanted to get back to, and I think it's about time, is your beliefs, your universal beliefs on life in general, I guess. You said that you're very spiritual. I mean, what exactly are your morals and beliefs around that?
Well, I think there's quite a few. I think that human beings, we're this anomalistic kind of miracle race, this miracle species of the earth, and that we're all created. The human race is created to pretty much protect the earth, protect innocence in every way. That we have a huge responsibility, and that the earth itself is an organism, is a goddess, and I believe in multiple deities and stuff, and that we have just this purpose to truly, for me at least, ever since I was a child, I've always felt a sense of purity in the earth, in the cosmos, and in people, and I've just always wanted to protect that innocence ruthlessly, but then also to create, to enlighten other people, and to recycle what's inspired me. Moral wise, I do believe that there's a female and male aspect to the creator. I believe in, of course, to do good as much as possible until that becomes something that's more prevalent in the world. And I believe in karmic law and quantum web and all of that. And then, of course, some people, are very, very much so immersed in fundamental religion. So I do rituals. I believe in I call it enhanced prayer, to not make them freak out that I'm about witchcraft and stuff. But, I believe in doing more than just praying. I think that, working with candles and different herbs and incense, also incantations, developing a Eucharist and doing magic, that stuff is all, I think that's part of why humanity, it's interesting that I love referring to the divine as the creator, because creativity is where we mirror the divine. I think that's where we are, kind of like as above, so below with the divine, human creativity. That's what sets us apart from the other animals, I think.
Yeah, when you mention a creator, I'm curious on this, because Everyone has their own beliefs on this, and to my knowledge, I don't think anyone's figured it out or going to figure it out. I don't think there is, personally, I don't think there is anything to figure out. The universe is, as you said, I agree with you on this. Like, it is, just unfathomable that we exist here at this time and are, as a race, have this creativity, these brains that continue to evolve, and you can see it in our history, right? Society evolves, creativity evolves, even our bodies evolve. And, and of course everyone goes, oh, we're the same. No, it's a very slow process, people. If you don't see that, like, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. Whatever you believe is what you believe. That's fine. And I'm saying to people at home. But yeah, I mean, I've come to this realization in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years for me. I was raised, in a Christian household, belief in the Bible, the God of the Bible. And I steered away from that in my teenage years, and then went through, my 20s and 30s, just kind of partying, and just like, that was the goal in my life, was to just have fun. And, I'm in a band traveling the world and with my best friends having a great time. And when that was taken away a little abruptly for about 5-6 years, it forced me to kind of go through a little bit of an existential crisis, or kind of just a moment of clarity that actually came from a lot of fog first, right? It always does. You always, like, you don't even realize that you don't actually believe the way that you're living until you get out of it, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I just realized that, like, the beauty that it is that we all are here, like the beauty that it is that right now, Sam, myself, you, Wes, are existing at this very time, whatever that time is, whatever time means, on this little planet, in this vast universe, and having a conversation like that. The probability of that. I mean, why is there something instead of nothing? Is an old adage that works for me. Like, it's a question that can't really be answered, and I think there's so many of those. And for people to, I think beliefs are great in a way, but to have it so much that you close your mind to other ideas is where it becomes dangerous. It's where, like, to say that you definitively know something is horseshit to me. To definitively know something in the short amount of time that we have to live just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know what your belief is on afterlife or pre-life, but for me, I can't fathom that the fact that it is so unfathomable, our existence, as I said. I can't imagine that there's something before or after. Where do you sit on that?
Well, I definitely think that, that there's a huge, for me, when it comes to the afterlife, I grew up in homes that every one of them had paranormal activity. So, and then also when we had the Lillary Mansion and the family, some of the stuff that I've seen with other spiritual people, atheists, nihilists, science only or God only, we all saw the same things. And, sure, it was scary when I was a kid to remember one time I asked, a question with someone. I was like, do ghosts exist? Because I couldn't sleep. And then right when that person said no, to calm me down, literally something moved by itself in the room, and we started laughing because it was, that kind of paranormal activity started there. And of course, in New Orleans, my time there has shown me that it's real. But yeah, I mean, I believe that I think it's when it comes to the universe, because we're in a solar system, and the intricacy of the solar system, the dynamics, the fact that it's such a system, for me, I definitely think that some kind of intelligence managed to devise and create that, because of how, dynamic it is. I think, like, I do believe in evolution too, though. I think, like, the materials and, the fabrics, such as like carbon and beyond, those things were created by the divine, and then kind of evolution happened on its own with that. So it's, right. I'm huge into both. But yeah, when it comes to the paranormal stuff, I mean, with the afterlife, especially I have a couple photographs my friends and I have taken when we were in Louisiana where I was just covered in orbs. I mean, there was just blue orbs all over me. And my friends started taking the photos, and I got to find those because that was pretty epic.
It's funny that you
share those with me if you want, because I've talked to people about this before here on the show and in my personal life, obviously. I personally, it's not that I'm closed-minded to it. I don't think I am. Maybe I am, and that's why I haven't seen anything. That's what I've been told. But I've never had a paranormal experience in my life. Maybe I haven't been at the right place at the right time. Maybe I am a little bit skeptic, so I don't open my mind enough to it. I like to think that I'm pretty open-minded, but I also wonder, I mean, you brought up the quantum web. I also wonder if that plays a part in it more than an afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with where science is at today, when that advances a little bit more, something will happen. I call it the spiritual renaissance, when pretty much all of these things are going to be revealed to us. And what's going to be interesting is how scientific it is. I think that, spirit itself, or that stuff, that it's all a science that we've always been obsessed with, that we're starting to get closer to. Like, especially when it comes to like the Egyptians and stuff like that, their precision and how they made the pyramids, and I think they're working on another wavelength that we're kind of coming back to it, I think, because I know that there was a time when people would deem everything witchcraft, and then I just was at the store recently and I saw a baseball cap that said manifest on it. I'm like, okay, that's cool that people are so interested in talking about energy and manifestation now.
No, it's absolutely true. And you touched upon something there that I also would 100% agree with, is that everything is such a system, solar system. I mean, even the unit, even beyond it, it just seems like there is a system. I mean, through technology, through science, we're finding the very codes that create everything, right? I mean, we can visibly see them now, and it's proven. I mean, there's always skeptics on everything, right? But I mean, it's very much proven that, there's more space in solids than there is solid material, and that's an old one, right? But like, even just our very codes and what that means, and how that varies amongst our race, and you bring in entropy and probability into that, and then you start to question, is there really a free will? If everything's systematically put together this way, is there really a free will? And if there is, how much of it? Like, is it like a pebble in the sand at a vast beach? How much does it change the tide? You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I've kind of gotten to a point in my life where I'm not atheist. I'm not anything. I don't have a label. I try to take in the information that is around me and give my own opinion to it, whether it's wrong or right. I mean, Socrates famously said at the end of his life, I've spent my entire life trying to figure it out. This is obviously not a direct quote. And I've been around long enough to know that I don't know shit, and I think that's, I mean, when you think of how small it could be, our existence in the universe, you can almost equivocate it towards us to a common housefly. I mean, they live their entire lives in whatever, the 36 hours, whatever it is. And to them, it's an entire life. To us, our life is this. But, what is it, 80 years, whatever it may be, that you get while you're here. And then it's gone. And how much can you really learn in 80 years of this vast system? You know what I mean? Like, we can learn from the generations before us, but that has happened and will continue to happen. But in your life, how much are you really going to know? And that's where I bring it back to that definitive mindset is something that I think is actually very toxic in our society. That to be definitively knowledgeable about something it just doesn't make sense to me. Like,
especially right now, more than ever,
man. I mean, there's new things popping up all the time, and it's like, and I love that. I think the education, the experimental idea of it, trying to find out, like, what else are you gonna do? Let's try and figure it out. Why the fuck not, right? But
yeah,
at the end of the day, because you're given this finite time on this planet with this vessel, whatever you believe happens before or after is irrelevant. This is the vessel that you have for now, and what you're going to base everything off of. At the end of the day, to your point earlier on, I think It's why are you going to spend that time fucking with other people instead of uplifting them? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's something that I came to in the last several years of my life where I'm just like, it's not all, like, I'm a competitive person, obviously. You don't get to places like yourself, Wes, or your family has without having a level of competition in you, right? That has to be there to like, to get you to want to raise the bar. And and before, you know, you're earlier on, I don't know about for you, but like in your 20s, that competition kind of comes out, it kind of sneaks out against some people that are your friends, but they're doing the same thing. You're like, oh man, but I'm doing this better than them. And it's in your head, you know, and you compartmentalize it, but it still comes up, right? And it felt so good for me. Again, I don't know if you can share the same feelings here, but it felt so good to get rid of that. You know what I mean? Just to let that go and just realize, hey, we're all doing this together. Like, whether it is in entertainment, just regular life, whatever it is that you're doing, you're living and existing at the same time as everybody else on this planet. Take a moment to think about how significant that is and how you should treat the fellow people that you are in existence with. Your consciousness, that the only consciousness that we know at this point is the one that we're with right now. Why are you going to waste it? Like, just enjoy the fact that you have it with all these other people, and there's something beautiful in each person, I believe.
Totally. Very brilliantly put.
You said something, Wes, that I definitely am going to take that I didn't think about. I like to say I'm agnostic. I don't know what I believe. I believe a little of everything. But the fact that you said the creator or whatever, not, you know, just as a generic term for something, the fact that it is driven from the word create. Look, I got a normal 9 to 5. Do I love it? No. Is my gravestone going to say Sam Hawkins, project manager? No, it's not.
It's going to say Sham Hawkins. Just so, yeah.
Inside joke there. But it's more about, you know, father, you know, husband, you know, creator of whatever, you know, whatever your passions are. And I do feel like that's more the creative. The things that bring me the most joy in my life are the things that I create or the people I'm with. And I do think that, and the rest kind of, it does define us differently, because the rest is just robotic actions. And what separates you different is what creative or love you put out there. I don't know where I'm going, but like, is you talk about animals, they're very, this is what they do. They hunt, they do this, and it's all about survival. We luckily have this different thing where we can create, or we don't have to follow just this path. We kind of can do whatever we want to make our lives better or worse, and it's kind of on us. So I don't know.
Precisely. And our passion really is what, I mean, there's no other animal that's, you know, even close to, you know, getting involved with space travel and making languages and all these things where they're written. I mean, there's something to us that's just, it's so miraculous. And I think that's why we have such a responsibility as humans, and also to really to honor our creativity and our mission in life, whatever we think our mission is. Like in Okinawa, how they all call the ikigai, your passion, and it's beyond important.
Dude, I'm so glad to have gotten into that with you, but real quick, is that bringing it back to the music, man. You did mention at the top of this the lyrics in Wolf, and now getting to know you an hour later into this conversation and where your beliefs lie. How do you bring that into your artist as a musician, or also how do you bring it in when you go into an acting, and how do you approach those two different things? Because obviously it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, you do use this kind of as a muse for both, and through this conversation is what I've gathered. So more specifically, how does that play into it, and maybe even the single and what we have coming up to hear from you?
Well, I definitely, you know, I've spent about 15 years. I started at 15, so it's been 15 years now, I guess, of 15 to 18 years of studying mysticism and the esoteric, and pretty much just a more advanced perspective of the spiritual or its dynamics, life, vice versa. But I'm trying to kind of simplify some amazing concepts of that realm that everyone can know and truly understand quickly and in a three-dimensional way. So with the wolf, that the concept that we explored was the higher and lower self and how that dichotomy works. And I feel like it's interesting because with these topics, I think we're all programmed to know these things, and it's kind of more of a revelation. But that's where we went with the wolf, where how someone has the power to be the most profound person of the millennia and do something really impeccable that is spoken about for the rest of time, or someone could choose to let it all go and wind up destitute, and they could starve, and it's amazing, the polarity.
Right. And again, specifically, how do you bring that into maybe your acting as well, or there are other artistry? We did mention the comic books. Sam brought up the comic books and stuff. Like how does that shape your creativity in a way?
It definitely shapes the storytelling for me the most. Particularly like if it's with acting, to where I'm not doing a song where I've controlled the lyrics, or if I didn't write a script. If I'm doing a movie where I'm playing a certain protagonist, like I did a movie called Assault on VA-33, and I just wanted to show how bad can be, like how bad could be, basically. And I wanted it to make the protagonist look better, to show show the importance of good, doing the right thing, triumph, hanging in there. It was a movie about trauma as well, because my character stormed a building, a VA hospital, and was going after the patients with PTSD and stuff. But my character had his own PTSD. Yeah, it was intense. And this character had his own unresolved PTSD. He's trying to find his brother. So I guess I was trying to show mental health or something like that, something that I could, if there's a moral that I see that a script or any body of work is trying to kind of clarify, I really do my best to try to bring that to light and see that as the mission of the project itself.
Awesome, man. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, man. We could go on for a
much longer. Wait. I know Johnny's got to go. Johnny's got to go at 4:30, but I got one last question before you go.
No, we're good, man.
You mentioned I just went to New Orleans for the first time last year, and I fell in love. It's a beautiful city. It's so much fun. The music is amazing, but also all of the lore and all that stuff that is there. And you mentioned that you lived in one of the most haunted houses there, right? Mm-hmm. So. Yes. Before we send you off, is there any experiences? I know Johnny and I differ as far as the before and after life. I do believe in like reincarnation and things like that, and spirits. I don't really know what I believe, but I do believe there can be things. Can you tell us a story or two, or just quickly of some experiences you had there?
Of course. Well, one time we were staying at a plantation. We were thinking about. I think my father was looking to see if we could have one of those in the family. I believe this plantation was called Ceridian Point. And we went there. I had a friend with me. And we were inside the kitchen. Everyone was asleep. And then it was one of those kitchens where there were cast iron and pots kind of suspended from those hooks up top. And we're just talking. And I've always heard about dead time, or like 3:15 a.m. and 4 a.m. Also Thursdays, certain times and days being more paranormally kind of like paranormally fertile. But out of nowhere, all of those metal pots and pans, everything in the kitchen just started smashing together by itself. My friend jumped on my lap, which was ridiculous. that reaction, but I'm like, all right, let's just calm down. And it just, to me, that's one of the examples about how being scientific. It just felt like a magnetism or some kind of thing that we haven't really, identified as well as we will in the future. It felt like that. And then also, of course, the orbs. The time where we went into the attic of the Lurie mansion, my friend Jesse Cove, an incredible actor that I love working with. He was like, "Whoa, dude, stop, don't move for a second." He pulled out his phone and he started to take photos. And I looked at my arms, and there was these just spherical orbs of blue energy all over me. And the more and more I learned about it, I heard that that's soul matter, but it was like orbs just floating all around the room, and it's amazing, especially when you have a group of people with different beliefs, especially if you have one or two that are complete opposite, where someone's like, no, nothing exists, and then the first one was like, oh, it's all this, it all has a meaning. When everyone sees the same thing, it's quite outstanding. I mean, it's exciting, I think.
Man, it does sound exciting too. And by the way, I want to clarify. Once again, I don't know anything, Sam. It's not that I.
I know. But no, we've had. So Johnny's got a balcony, and we go out there, and that's where the late night talks.
Oh, he's got a balcony. Let's just brag about the balcony.
No, the balcony is like where all these talks go. I mean, we get deep, and this. I mean, this is just a taste of it, and obviously, what you're talking about here lends right into what we talk about there. So, right. I don't know. Yeah. You're gonna have to come up to the balcony one of these days, and
absolutely. Always welcome on the balcony there, Wes, man.
Thank you very much. I'd love to.
Yeah, man. I do hope we cross paths in person at some point here in the next year.
If you start doing shows in the area in SoCal, let us know.
I would love to have you guys there. And, we've been doing a lot of podcasts and interviews the past month, and this has been my favorite experience. I really appreciate talking to you guys.
Dude,
our pleasure.
It's felt very mutual, man. This is a good vibe, good energy for sure. I appreciate your time. And real quick, what do you got that you want to talk about that's coming up? What do you got that you can so people can go check out more of Wes Cage and see what's happening for you the rest of this year?
Well, I just did a Western. I did a Western a while back that finally got released with Brian Austin Green and Danny Trejo.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's out. And then
what's the name of that one?
That one's called The Night They Came Home.
Isn't that written by the guy who did The Night of the Living Dead?
It may be. It's
if you're gonna make claims like that, you got to fact check.
I looked it up because I clicked on it. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead. The guy who wrote Night of the Living Dead was one of the writers on that. That's pretty cool.
I know
Is that Rodriguez?
No, it's
Patrick. Oh, the other one.
Patrick Durham directed it, and it's based off the Rufus Buck gang. I did an interview about it yesterday for Ireland about kind of how it's a pretty unknown part of history that I don't know why it's not more well known. I mean, there's a biracial gang of these just badass warrior types that were of indigenous Native American and African American ancestry together, and they're in the end of the 19th century as this group, and then there's all kinds of stuff going on with the cowboys, and it's very unique, and it'd be interesting for people to watch. So there's that, of course, the one with Mel Gibson and 50 Cent, Boneyard. I finished there was one day where I literally pounded out 100 pages in 3 days to finish this one thing I'm working on. But a TV show and a film I have written, and a book in the works, and also new music. I'm already talking with Blasko about what the future's looking like, and direct, about which songs could be next, because there's some stuff that I know I coined my own genre, ghost metal or ghost rock, and that was a thing. And some people are wondering, does that really exist or not? But there's a record that we have that is just, there's some tracks that really have a good showcase of a new sound.
Oh, very cool. I'm excited to hear that, man. And Sam, I touched upon it. Are you anything in the works for performing any of this music coming up soon?
So we haven't spoken about performances yet. As far as we've gotten is I know who I would like to be with me on stage as my drummer. Of course, I always let Blasko have the decision on that with his experience and everything on who's in the band. But there's that, and then also I'm definitely ready to get back into the shape that I was in vocally, where I can do hour-long sets plus commentary. So when I start rehearsing, I'm definitely going to let you guys know when the show is.
Yes, please do. Well, we'll be there, and congrats on the engagement. Do you guys have a date set yet? You don't have to say it here, but just you got a date set yet?
We have multiple. We want to get do multiple ceremonies and stuff, but
is it a 3-day and black metal wedding
3-day in Oslo,
or is that the bachelor party?
we might have to do one Scandinavian wedding where that happens.
There you go.
Very cool, man. Well, but thank you again for being here. Awesome getting to know you a little bit here, man. I hope we can continue this friendship moving forward. Stay in touch and all those wonderful things. And again, congratulations on all your success so far, and kudos to what's coming in the future, man. I'll be watching, and again, just really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. The feeling's mutual, and we'll definitely stay in touch. And yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast again.
Absolutely, great, man. We'll have you on again for sure, because we'll get into some deep spiritual shit. I'd like to do an in-person one with you with some candles, and you walk me through something like that. That might be fun.
Oh, that'd be great.
Totally. And
awesome, man.
If you guys ever want to do like a sweat lodge or something like that, I have quite the community I'm friends with. There's a lot of events going on like that.
I've heard a lot about that.
It's pretty impeccable,
dude. Well, so many great things. Learning more every time here. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Go follow and check out more from Wes Cage. Make sure you're following us if you aren't already. And that's it for this time. Until next time. Cheers.